Welcome to the Where Do Gays Retire podcast, where we help you in the LGBTQ plus community find a safe and affordable retirement place. Join Mark Goldstein as he interviews others who live in gay-friendly places around the globe. Learn about the climate, cost of living, healthcare, crime and safety, and more. Now, here's your host, Mark Goldstein.
Today, we're going to take a journey to Barra, Uruguay, and our special guests are Elaine Zito and Cynthia Richards. And I'll tell you a little bit about both. So Elaine was born in Chicago and raised in Elk Grove Village until her family moved to Southern California. She graduated from UCSD in San Diego and received her political science degree with an emphasis in Latin American politics. During her tenure at UCSD, she had the opportunity to study in Mexico City. This is where she discovered her love for the Latin people and culture. 3 years later, while teaching elementary school in San Diego, Elaine received her master's in education with an emphasis in bilingual education from the University of San Diego. She has been working on becoming bilingual in Spanish for decades now. It's a process, not an event. But I think you're pretty good by now, Elaine. So in 1994, Elaine relocated to Scottsdale, Arizona. And here I am in Phoenix, Arizona. We didn't even know each other. And soon thereafter became a securities and insurance licensed after her teaching job ended in Phoenix. She figured she might as well learn about money, something her family really didn't teach her about. And after several years of training, she earned her certified financial planning designation, as well as the certified estate planning designation. Elaine helped people retire for 27 years. After COVID and the death of her mother, she and her wife decided to hang it up and retire to Uruguay, where they currently reside happily and safely. Her major incentive to move away from the U.S. was to create a life where she didn't feel terrorized on a daily basis. And I can't wait to talk about that a little bit more. So let's introduce you to Cynthia as well. So Cynthia was born and raised in Maine. She's the baby of the family with an older brother who lives in Washington State. She grew up tromping in the woods, fishing in the lakes, and looking for mermaid tears, sea glass with her family. She married the woman of her dreams, Elaine Zito, in 2015, and they now tromp through the woods. A lot of tromping going on. Eating fish someone else has caught, and look for mermaid tears on the beaches of Uruguay with their family of 3 dogs. 3 dogs. We have to talk about how we got those 3 dogs over to Uruguay. So she started dance class at 2 or 3, found her people in theater groups in school and throughout Maine, and eventually moved to the Washington, D.C. area to work professionally in the theater communities in D.C., Virginia, and Maryland. This is the love she has today and continues with Voices of the Desert, an unconventional theatrical chorus in Phoenix, Arizona. Cynthia has a master's degree in business with an emphasis on human resource management and has worked in the HR capacity in many forms of business, eventually spending the years before retirement working with her wife in the finance industry. Today, she can be found in Uruguay, retired, walking with her family on the beach, learning Spanish, finding places to sing and dance. Well, maybe you'll give us a little introduction to that. Baking, playing pickleball, and being grateful and thankful for the life she has been allowed to create. Ladies, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today at the podcast. I'm so excited to speak with you. Again, we spoke before, but I just love you ladies and want to know all about how you got to Uruguay. So they live in a town called La Barra, and it's a resort town located on the eastern coast of Uruguay. And it's a popular tourist destination of Punta del Este. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes, that's it.
Okay.
We love right. you too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Blushing. So anyway, welcome, Cynthia and Elaine. And tell the audience, what motivated you to move to Uruguay, and why did you choose it out of every place on the earth?
Well, thanks for having us, Mark. We're really excited to be on this podcast with you today. My main thing was I wanted to find a place where we as a same-sex couple could go without that being jeopardized, or we didn't want to be persecuted or terrorized by that. We didn't want it to be reversed like Roe v. Wade. So we really wanted to find a place where we could call home and where we would be accepted fully. And Uruguay was one of 5 countries that scored really high on the same-sex couples places to live in the world. And I didn't want to go to France, and I didn't want to go to Spain. I didn't want to live in Canada or the Netherlands. So I thought, Uruguay, well, that's kind of interesting. I'd studied it in geography class in college, but I didn't really know much about it. So guess what? I started watching YouTube videos, and they have tons of them. There are so many of them. It's incredible. So I felt like I almost knew this place before we moved. And then when we came to visit and check it out, it was just a confirmation of how wonderful it was. But in the grand scheme of things, we wanted a temperate climate too. That's why Canada was out and the Netherlands were out, because I did not want to freeze. But I'm still freezing here in this temperate climate. It's like San Diego.
Compared to Scottsdale.
Yes. And it's like San Diego, where it doesn't get really hot in the summer, but it doesn't get really cold in the winter. But not really cold. I mean, by 50 degrees, I'm freezing. So everything's relative. Yeah. But in the grand scheme of things, it's a pretty mild winter that we have experienced. We're finishing our winter season now.
Wow. So you're kind of like the opposite. We're kind of like getting towards the end of our summer season, and you're getting towards the end of your winter season.
Yeah.
And we'll get into the weather in just a little bit. But when you were doing your research for places, what, like Uruguay, as far as LGBT rights, what did you look at, and how did you compare that to other countries?
Well, I was pretty amazed that they had already honored same-sex couples and marriages and unions by 2013. We weren't even thinking about it.
That's a long time.
Yes. So it was really, I was pretty amazed by that. And it's a very secular country, and I like that too, because there really is a separation of church and state. They don't celebrate Christmas. They celebrate Family Day. They don't celebrate Gay Pride Day. They celebrate Sexual Diversity Week, which is what we're in right now. We're kind of in it right now. Certain cities have Gay Pride right now, and that's what they're calling it. They call it sexual diversity. So it includes everybody, because if you're asexual or maybe you're polyamorous, or maybe you're gay, or maybe you're straight, it really includes everyone. And when I found out about that, I really was very attracted to Uruguay.
That's definitely different than
a little
other
history.
places.
In 1917, there was a separation of church and state here, and it is very definitive. And then in 1934, homosexuality was decriminalized. That really was probably one of the earliest countries in the world to decriminalize homosexuality. They also, in that same year, they also identified that the age of consent, regardless of who you're having sex with, was 16. So there was a setting, if you will, of sexual freedom back as early as 1934. I may be mistaken, but I believe that there are still some states in the United States that have sodomy laws on the books, and that it is ignored, but that it is still technically illegal in some states in the United States. So that was very positive. That was their history in celebrating sexual diversity, and their history in integrating the LGBTQ community into just regular life was really, really very important to us.
And women's rights too. In 1913, a woman could actually divorce her husband here in Uruguay without, there was like a no-fault divorce, that kind of thing, without
That's amazing.
And that was really very early on as well. So for women's rights, for gay rights, it seemed that they really do respect individual rights way more than I experienced in the U.S.
How long has it been, before we get into the climate and geography, how long has it been a democracy? Do you know?
It's been a democracy, and then it's been on and off. The last time it was not a democracy, it was basically taken over by 1985. So there was about a 4-year period of time that it was kind of an authoritarian kind of person was in power, but it was short-lived. And then Uruguay really secured their democratic way of being by 1985.
Awesome.
So It's a young democracy compared to the U.S., where we're going into 250, 260 years. This is still relatively early on in its democratic history or process.
Yes, agree. So tell us also, all right, geographically, where is Uruguay and where is it located? And where within Uruguay is La Barra?
So Uruguay is nestled on the east side of the coast. It's the Atlantic Ocean between Brazil and Argentina. It's kind of shaped like an avocado, if you will. And if you went to the bottom right on the coast and you went to the to more east of center is La Barra, and it's right on the coast of Uruguay. It's there's actually the peninsula, which is Punta del Este, the peninsula, and then you go over these really cool bridges that are wavy. They're very well-known bridges. They look like little roller coaster bridges, and then that's where La Barra is, and it sits on the Atlantic Ocean and on the, I don't know if it's a river or an estuary, or it's where the Atlantic Ocean and the freshwater meet. So I don't know what it's technically called geographically, but.
Okay.
And we are south of the equator.
We are south of the equator.
So our water, when you look down the sink, it goes the opposite way. Yep. And also
the moon is the opposite way. Like when you look.
What do you mean it goes the opposite way?
Yeah, the water spirals. If you look at your water, like ours is counterclockwise. Yours should be clockwise when the water goes down, when it spins down. And we actually are finishing winter. We're going to go into spring now as you guys are going into fall.
So the height of summer here is Christmas.
Yes, we really do have Christmas in the summer here.
Very similar to Australia.
My God. So you have to get used to all of that stuff.
It's weird, and we're not used to it in any way.
Okay, let's start off with, you chose Uruguay as a place that interests you. How did you pick La Barra? Did you just say, okay, I'm going to throw a dart at the map and that's where we're going to check out? How did that happen?
No, I'm a financial planner by trade, so I plan everything. It's just my nature. I do reconnaissance. We always goof around about we're doing reconnaissance. So my mom died in June, and I had been watching all of these videos about Uruguay, and I just fell in love with it just from the videos. And so what we did is we contacted, and they call it a immobiliaria, and that's a realtor here. And this lady was from Switzerland. She's from the German part, so she has a German accent. Her nationality is German, but she's here. She's been here for over 12 years now. And so what we did is we gave her a list of all the places that seemed really cool to live in. And I said, let's take a little money that we inherited from my mom. I said, let's go and check out Uruguay in person, and we'll go we'll tool around with this immobiliaria, and she'll take us all around to see everything. And the poor lady, we had her driving all over. We knew we didn't want to be in Montevideo. It's the big, big, big city here. It's the capital. That's what I was going to ask you. Half the people live here. And no way. It didn't feel so safe in some of the old yucky parts by the port and everything. I was like, no, I don't want to live in Montevideo. I knew that. But there were lots of places like Piriápolis looked really good. Did we want to live on the coast? Yeah, we really did. And then we had other towns that we looked at. We looked at Punta del Este. We looked at Manantiales. There's also Jose Ignacio. There are all many places we looked at.
Punta Ballena, where you can see whales right now. They're actually having whale sightings there.
That's what Ballena means, is whale.
Oh.
So it's like Punta is Whale Point, and it really is Whale Point. We get to see humpback whales and things like that. And this is the season. So we really had her run us around a lot. It was a very intensive week. And it's funny because this house that we ended up getting was the very last house that we gave to her as part of our search. But it was the first house she showed us because it's right down the street from her office. So it was just really weird. We ended up picking this place, and it happens to be in La Barra, which is perfect for us.
So you scoped out all of these towns and had the different houses on your list before even her?
Yes.
Like you with the MLS instead of
and we went through all kinds of
and you're like, I want to see this, I want to see this, I want to see this.
Yes. And we just emailed them to her, and she's like, I'll show him. And then she had everything ready for us. So we saw over a dozen houses and neighborhoods. We even, there were some places that she showed us, and I was like, oh no, I don't want to even look at any houses here. It just depends on what you're looking for. We knew we wanted something that was like the forest. We love trees, we love green, and we also knew we wanted to be near the coast, but I didn't want to be on the beach. So we kind of had a pretty good idea of what we were looking for.
So how did you decide upon La Barra? Was it you just said, okay, this is a great place, and how long were you there initially to give her all these places and check them out for yourself?
We were only here a week, but the reason I really wanted this house is that I love the house, and it happens to be in La Barra. We're also 3 blocks from the beach. From my back patio, because we have a 2-story, from the back deck, I can actually see Punta del Este and the water from my back deck. Beautiful. But I don't feel afraid if there's a cyclone or a typhoon comes in. We're high up enough and we're away from the water enough that I feel safe.
Cool.
I agree. And then right in our backyard, it's just filled with adult, mature pine trees. Nice. So you have this feeling of the forest, and it smells really good. And you have this feeling of being in the mountains or being in the forest with the ability literally to walk 2 blocks, 3 blocks, and you're on the beach. And all the beaches here are public. So you're able to, they have access to the beaches everywhere. So you're just able to walk around, and this beach is actually, it gets very used in the summer. So there's about 350 people that live in this little town permanently. Now 352 with Elaine and I, and then Elaine and me, and then but in the summer it's a tourist attraction. So if you think of like a beach town on the East Coast where it is virtually empty in the winter months, in the summer it's completely full, and that's how it is here.
It's like Rehoboth or
exactly. Yeah, a lot of the houses don't get used until the summer. They're empty most of the year. It's a really funky little town. It's known for its surfing. It's known for, it's just kind of it's a laid back kind of feel. So I think that was something that was very positive. And it's about 20 minutes away from Punta del Este and Maldonado, which are very larger urban areas that you can go to where you can get anything that you want.
Right. You can go shopping, you can go to restaurants,
movies,
but it's fun here because we can just walk to the store, we can walk to the restaurants, we can walk to the beach. It's no big deal, but sometimes you need a little bit more than that. Sure. It reminds me a little bit of Ocean Beach in San Diego, where you kind of walk around, but
I love
you're not too far from downtown. You can get to civilization pretty easily.
Right.
So it seemed like the right place for us. Because some of the places that she showed us that we were interested in, I mean, we were genuinely interested in all of these places, but we felt so like, oh, we'd be so out of the way from a city, and we wanted to be near medical facilities and things.
Right, of course, it's very important.
So it just seemed like the right place.
Great. So I wouldn't think that there's a specific LGBTQ plus community in La Barra. So I guess tell us about that. Do you miss like being around the neighborhood, or do the people there, do they actually not care? And it's not, since they've been so open for so many years, is it not even a factor?
Tell them about last night.
So it really isn't a factor. There really isn't a neighborhood. Even in Montevideo, I don't think that there's really a neighborhood. I think that everything here is so open that you just exist. You just are. You're just able to be without having a lot of, or having any really odd glances or questions or strange comments like, where's your husband? Those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody just, it just is here. We did some research here specifically for this podcast. In La Barra and in Punta del Este, there are no gay bars, primarily because every bar is every bar is good. We went last night to listen to a new friend of ours. She has a group, a small orchestra, and they do tangos. And in this little club, women were dancing with women. I didn't see any men dancing with men, but I don't think that would have even been an issue. But there were, and the tango is sort of a very close, touchy-feely kind of dance.
I mean, it's cheek to cheek. I don't think
there was no question when women were dancing with each other, and that was even, I mean, nobody even raised an eyebrow. Right? I know that they do same-sex tango classes. I know they've got those in Montevideo, and there's an absolutely gorgeous mural, a tango mural of two men doing the tango in Montevideo on one of the main streets. So I mean, if that's what you're looking for, if you're looking for a really heavy-duty nightlife, La Barra is not the place. If you're looking for if you're looking for a really specific gay culture, La Barra is not the place, because it's just so accepted that those things are just unnecessary.
Right, which is refreshing.
But it is something that people who have grown up having a definitive gay community might miss.
Right. Like myself, and it might be just because where we live here in the United States. So we go to gay bars, and we don't go to gay bars to pick up anybody. We go to gay bars because we just want to be amongst other gay people. So, and the community, the sense of community, because unfortunately here you have a stigma for some people that are not as accepting. So that's why I personally just feel more comfortable in a gay bar. But it's kind of a refreshing thought if you lived in a place where they don't give a shit and everything is equal and it doesn't matter, then being in a gay bar wouldn't matter because everybody accepts everybody.
Right. We did go September 3rd through September 5th. Here was the Uruguay LGBT plus Summit Pride Connection, which was a free set of workshops and set of information, of 3 days on the businesses and the various gay chambers of commerce, which are throughout the department. Uruguay is made up of 19 different departments, and
states,
if you will, but there's 19 of them. Most of them have some kind of an LGBT plus chamber of commerce. They have several businesses. We were able to talk, actually, the Canadian embassy was here, and they were able to speak with us. And we weren't looking for jobs, but we just went to kind of see what the feeling was. And there was a really lovely group of young people who are trans. There's a great many of their major businesses here are are LGBT friendly and are seeking and actively looking to try and make sure that group is included in their hiring process. And I mean, it was just really
Sweet.
nice to see that. And there were quite a few people there, and they had some social hours, and that was the 3rd through the 5th. And apparently they do that every year. And they had speakers from other countries in South America, Ecuador, maybe Venezuela, and how those countries are progressing in the rights of LGBT plus communities.
And they're kind of following the Uruguayan model.
Yeah.
I mean, they look to Uruguay to help their countries become more inclusive, because that was the main thing. That, I mean, all the banks, all of the utility companies, everybody was there, all the restaurants. I mean, they're ready to hire people with open arms, but not necessarily in Venezuela or in Ecuador. So it was really kind of cool how they're trying to learn from each other in the region.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. So, okay. So no gay bars because they're really not needed. No neighborhoods. That's fine. So we also talked about, so same-sex marriage was passed way back before the United States. So they're very progressive as far as being residents.
And just all to include, in 2009, they allowed the transgender community to change their gender on all of their official documents, whether they were in process of transition or not. So
2009. Wow.
Yeah, back in so it's there. They really are looking at the entire community of LGBT plus people. They're not forgetting the trans people. And I know that is a political dynamite right now in the United States. And here it's just, I mean, it's just really refreshing. It's really refreshing to be able to see men walking hand in hand, and it's just really lovely here.
The other thing too is we joined a pickleball group, and one of the men there suggested that we adopt children. They're so open about gay couples. I mean, they were encouraging us to adopt children, when look at what's going on in Italy. Italian gay people are not allowed to adopt children anymore.
Well, they're not allowed to get married in Italy either.
It's just ridiculous. I mean, we just visited Italy, and it is very oppressive. The government is very oppressive. And we did even go into a gay bar, and we met some gay men that kind of told us what was going on in Italy. And I was like, I would never live in Italy. No way.
Yeah, it's really... 2003, they put into effect the anti-discrimination laws, and that was federal. I believe... I'm not really sure about this, but I thought that in my broken Spanish, I thought that I understood that there might even be a union that is specific to LGBT plus people.
I think so.
There's Uruguay has a great number of unions, which I think is sort of another sign of a strong democracy.
Yes.
So
that's awesome. How easy or difficult is it to meet others? Like, tell us a little bit about the expat community, as well as the locals. Have you made friends with either of those communities? And tell us about the language. Tell us Spanish. I know Spanish is the official language, and is that needed? And do you both speak Spanish?
Well, I had more experience living in like Mexico. It was really something that helped me to be able to speak a little bit. But here, the Spanish is so different. I feel like I'm kind of relearning Spanish in my pronunciation. And I want to sound like an Uruguaya. I don't want to sound like a Mexican girl. It's okay to speak with an accent. It's not a problem. They're so happy that you speak Spanish.
Spanish.
They really try. And these people, they go to school. It is compulsory through secondary, and they do learn Spanish. I mean, English. They do.
English.
But they don't use it a whole lot because there aren't a lot of English speakers here. So we figured it's about a 75% need. Like you probably could get by not knowing Spanish, but you would do a lot better learning Spanish. And the educated folks that we hang out, that we've met in the expat community and in pickleball, believe it or not, there are all kinds of retired teachers and they speak English very well. So we've been able to make friends with them pretty well. And you know how it is. You talk to one person and then they send you a link, and now we know every
Introduce you to
single
somebody
event
else.
that's going on in our neighborhood. So that's really cool. Cynthia was able to find a lot of things for us to do. So it's getting easier and easier to meet people. It's almost like a snowball effect.
Yeah, and the expat community, if you can find and grow with the expat community, one person will introduce you to another, and then before you know it, you're going to these meetups and you're going for coffee or going out for dinner. So that's how things get started. I am all for making community anywhere that it's possible. I love making community. That's the one thing I do. I've even made community. I've introduced some other guests on podcasts that live in different parts of or different cities of different countries, and they've gotten together and hung out, and now they're friends, they're Facebook friends and real life friends.
That's cool.
So, yep.
That's good.
So that's great that you're able to meet some people that way. So tell us a little bit about the local economy. How different is it from the U.S.? Is it cheaper, just as expensive? I know coming from Scottsdale, you might be saving a couple of bucks. As far as, tell us a little bit about how much it costs for a home, approximately 2 or 3 bedroom home.
The house that we bought is 4 bedroom, 3 bath. It's about maybe 2,700 square feet. You're able to own the land here. You're able to own all of it. It was a very easy. We actually made an offer in September when we were here, and then we signed all the papers virtually in December before we even got back. So once we got here, the house was ours. And it was $350,000. I think that the housing here is comparable to parts of the United States, less expensive, I think, than Scottsdale by far, probably more expensive than some places, but it depends. There are a lot of single family homes in a variety of different conditions and a variety of different sizes. There's a ton of apartment and condo places where I've seen an apartment with 3 bedroom, 2 bath as low as 185. That's in Punta del Este, which is a
right
great
on the beach.
Place to be.
Impeccable. Yeah. It's like La Jolla. Right. It's like we live in Ocean Beach, and Punta is like La Jolla. That's kind of what it's like. Yeah.
And the buying process of things here is slightly different when it comes to larger items like your car and your home. It's a different process than it is in the United States. Everything takes a little while to buy things. Like you can't just go to a dealership and buy a car. That was like a 3 or 4 day process for us. You have to go to the police station and you have to show them that you've purchased a house, and you have to have somebody vouch that you live in the house. So that's usually your realtor. And then the police department has to write a letter to the car company that has to then you get the car, then you take the car, then you go somewhere else, and then you get the car registered, and then you go someplace else, and then they give you the tags right there. So it was like a 3 or 4 day process to buy a used car here. So things like that, you just have to be prepared that everything's going to take a while.
Yeah, it's not the U.S. Everybody wants instant gratification.
We did too.
That's not going to happen.
That was part of our stress, and the locals could tell that we'd be kind of perturbed by this lack of speed. But as far as the prices go, like our little, they call it a camioneta. It's like a little van kind of car. It's a Chevy. It's an 06. It cost me $17,000. It's not cheap. And but some things are kind of cheap. Like the insurance for the car I got to pay for 3 years. And it was $1,500 for 3 years. So that's cheaper. And my cell phone is a lot cheaper here in Uruguay. It's like $20 a month.
Right. Cable,
how about utilities?
Less expensive. The water here is not metered. The water here is actually a flat rate. And it ends up being about $45. The electricity is reasonably expensive here. I haven't seen a lot of solar opportunities on individual homes that the electricity company doesn't have like the ability to buy back yet. So that is something that they're working on.
But they do have like 98% of their energy is sustainable. So that's kind of cool. We were attracted to that, but it doesn't mean it's cheap.
Right.
It still costs quite a bit until people kind of get solarized here. And I'm sure that's going to happen over time because the people want to do that.
You have to find the places just like any other tourist town. The prices go up in the summer when the tourists are here, and then they go down. But there's also many different places that you can go where the prices remain the same for things like groceries and for other items. You just have to find them. So now that we know where they are, we're happy to share that information. They've got every Sunday they have like a market, an open air market where it's like a big garage sale on the outskirts, and then on the inside it's all fruits and vegetables.
It's like
and
a farmer's market.
It's like a farmer's market, and you can get things there for a quarter of the cost. Junk food is pretty high. Like if you want to buy potato chips are like
because
$10
they get them from
a bag.
They probably get them from here,
right?
They do. They ship them,
right? So there's no Amazon here. There's not. So it's not like you can have stuff. I know, right? Getting things delivered.
They have their own Amazon.
They have their own.
It's
Amazon.
called Mercado Libre. And guess what? When we got our pickleball paddles and bowls, it came in an Amazon box.
Right.
Oh,
but
there you go.
We have to pay the taxes because we went through their system.
Right.
So
Mercado Libre, doesn't that mean free market?
Yeah,
Yes.
Basically. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Good. You have some Spanish.
See? There you go.
So groceries, though, they're pretty comparable. Like I said, junk food here they have warnings on like candy bars. They have warnings on potato chips. They have health warnings on these things, and they really do encourage you not to buy them. I firmly believe that. I don't know if it's true or not, but I firmly have made it up in my mind that they encourage you not to buy these, not only by the comments, but by the price.
They really try to discourage
so
it.
this would be a deal breaker. If they have commercials for drugs, Varsiga, or all these drugs companies, pharmaceutical companies, then I'm not coming.
No.
I haven't seen one yet. Not a note of
But you know what I'm talking about in the United States.
Exactly what
that is one of my pet peeves.
Right. No, mostly it's going shopping at Renner, through the Mercado Libre, or it's shows that are coming up. And they're, I don't know, it's very different.
It is very different.
So I would say, normally speaking, in a lot of countries, purchasing a vehicle is going to be more expensive than the U.S. Purchasing gas probably will be more expensive as well. So how much is a gallon of gas? Do you know?
No, it's a lot. It's like over $2 a liter. So it's probably more like $6. Almost, yeah. So it might cost us about $80 or $90 to fill up our camioneta, but we can't drive fast and we can't really go far. So we don't really use a lot of gas. It'll still take me maybe like 3 weeks to go through a tank. Whereas in the US, I was going through a tank in just like every 5 days. So it would, and the cars here seem to be better just better at consumption. It's amazing to me. We just go and go and go. And it's like, wow, we still have half a tank and we've been going a lot of places. So I think it's better that way. But guess what? They don't have self-serve. You are not allowed to pump your gas.
Oh, sounds like New Jersey.
We also get a service. So he always checks all of our fluids. He checks our window. He washes our windows. He checks the air in our tires, and he pumps the gas for us. It's really kind of nice.
Oh,
I
that's
actually
like
love
old
going
New
to
York.
the gas station.
That's like old United States.
It is.
Years ago.
And they all have little uniforms on, and
I love that.
Yeah.
they're so cute too. They're really enjoyable. I love working with those guys. They
How
really help
about walking? Could you walk like to the pharmacy,
Oh, yes.
the market, a hospital or a doctor? Tell us about the community like near your home. I know you could also walk to the beach.
Okay. In La Barra, you can go to any number of there's three main grocery stores. You can walk there. You can walk to all the restaurants. There's a clinic right down the street that you can walk to. There are pharmacies, 3 or 4 pharmacies that you can walk to. You can get to the place that sells the meat. You can get to the place that sells the fish. You can get to the bread store. You can get to the hardware store, the veterinarian, the restaurants.
I miss all of that.
It's really fun.
Anywhere.
Like old USA, old US, where we used to go to a bakery.
Yeah,
we used to go
like
to a butcher baker. I always say candlestick maker. And you know what I mean? A shoemaker or
a shoemaker.
Everything was separate. It wasn't just supermarket.
No, and they have like a panaderia with all the good treats. And then they'll have, I don't know, they just have a lot of different specialty stores that you can go to. Oh, they have an empanada store. It's just every kind of empanada you can think of is available, but that's usually closed in the winter.
You can go get clothes in La Barra. You can go and they've got great public transportation. There are buses everywhere. The buses will take you back and forth from city to city to city, and they're very inexpensive. They have taxis here. We haven't used a taxi yet. We did use an Uber.
I have an Uber lady.
We have an Uber lady, right?
She's like at my beck and call. All I have to do is text her and she's ready. I love it. It's great.
There's bicycles everywhere. There's a lot of like Vespas and motorcycles, small motorcycles and things like that people use. So it's very European that way.
But we don't really have a lot of trains, and we don't have a lot of there's no subway or anything.
No subway.
Right.
But we took our flight to Italy from Montevideo. Well, we're like 2 hours away from Montevideo, and I didn't want to park the car there for 3 weeks while we were in Italy. So, and we didn't want to, our guy who stayed at the house, he would have taken us to the airport in our car and he would have come back. But that's a lot of driving for him too. So we checked out the bus. It was this beautiful bus and it was like $12 a person to go to Montevideo from here. And it was just a wonderful experience. They took care of our bags. We didn't have to do anything. It was just nice. Yeah.
Drop you right off at the front of the airport.
Yeah,
pick right up at the front of the airport.
Yeah.
It's
very convenient.
So I have no complaints about that.
Does La Barra?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Does La Barra have an airport, like a small airport?
We do in Punta del Este, but it's really for flights to Brazil or to Argentina. It's really kind of more local South American flights. But you could have taken a flight, we could have gone from Punta del Este to Monte, but it wouldn't have been $12. It would have been like $200. So for $12, you can't really beat it.
They have some small private planes that come into that airport as well. They have some they have some small private people that fly.
Yep.
So
and Montevideo is an international airport.
That one is, we're talking about the Punta del Este, the little airport here.
Yes.
Because we're only 15 minutes away from that airport. So it would be really convenient for people to come and visit us and just fly into Punta. But it's going to be like $250 more. So sometimes we'll do things we'll pick you up in Monte, but we don't want to drive. If you get in really late, we'll just stay at a hotel in Monte. And then we'll just drive in the morning to come back to.
Or spend a couple of days there because Montevideo definitely should be seen. And then there's another little town that is Colonial del Sacramento, and they have Colonial Suiza. And those little areas should also be seen. And then if anybody is interested in going to Buenos Aires, the ferry goes from Colonial del Sacramento across the river, the Rio Plata, to Buenos Aires.
Or you can go from Montevideo to Buenos Aires. But the problem is it's going to be twice as long of a ferry ride. So it just depends on how you want to do that.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the climate. So, do you have hot and humid, hot and dry? I know you are used to hot and dry in Arizona. So,
Just
what's the
picture
climate
being
like?
in San Diego.
San
The
Diego?
weather
You
here is
mentioned that.
pretty much the whole way. You'll have overcast, you'll have humidity, you'll have some heat, you'll have it kind of cold, you'll have some rain in the winter. In the summer, we didn't really have that much rain, but we're in a drought too in Uruguay. So I would like to see more rain, actually. So, but it is humid because we're right by the coast. But we'll have
Coast.
that June gloom and May gray that I experienced in San Diego. It's not like all day long like it was there because there's not
So,
a
like,
smog or anything.
so in like the hot summer, what would you say would be the high
Probably in the
average?
80s, but it's
That's not
humid
bad.
too.
That's okay.
It's not too bad.
I could take 80s.
It's really not bad considering coming from Arizona, where the
Yeah.
heat is so oppressive. Like, for instance, we could actually sleep with our windows open
Do you have air
at
conditioning?
night because it cools off at night. And then the breeze is really wonderful, and you can hear the ocean. And even if it's humid, and even if during the day it was 83 degrees Fahrenheit, it's still really wonderful in the evenings
Cools
at night.
off. Do you have air conditioning?
We do. We have these special units that are like dual units. So you just basically deal with one room at a time instead of central air. And that does reduce the use
The
of,
bill.
yeah. Well, the
Yeah,
bill is still pretty
electricity.
bad, in my opinion. I don't like paying for anything. I had solar in my house and I never paid APS a penny. But here we just haven't invested in solar yet. But these units are pretty cool because you just use it for that room you're in. And most of the time
Right.
we're together and the dogs are wherever we are. So it's like we don't really have to keep the whole house
Whole
heated
place.
or the whole house cooled off. We just need where we are. So
We also bought a dryer, which you usually have a washing machine and you hang your clothes out, which is wonderful in
That's
the
like
summer.
Europe.
They smell great, everything, and they dry quickly. But in the winter here, because it's a little bit rainier and it's a little bit more humid, it was taking things really a
Forever.
significant amount of time to dry. So I think that we'll see a cutback in all of that as well. Even right now, I'm able to hang out some of the bigger items like towels and stuff like that. So
that was just like San Diego too.
Yeah.
If I had a
Yeah.
wet towel and I hung it up, it might take 3 days to dry.
To dry, right?
That
With a
happens
beach
here
towel.
too. But it's
Yep.
drier in the summer because it's hotter. When it
Right.
seems a lot drier, things did dry quite quickly compared to what I remembered from being in San Diego so long.
So I know it gets cold, especially to people that are used to Arizona weather. So how cold does it get in the winter?
I think we've been in the 40s, like in the mornings. Sometimes it'll be really, I know it sounds ridiculous, right? But to me, after going from 118 or 115 to 40, that was a big, big change.
Yes.
And to me, it was cold. 50s are cold, 60s are cold. And
Yeah.
during the day, it might be 60 or 70, but then it might go down to 40s or 50s. 10 degrees
That's chilly.
Celsius. Yeah, that'll
But
happen.
still not bad.
It's not bad.
but it's not day after day after day.
True.
It's intermittent. Like you might have a week of a cold spell and then you have 3 or 4 weeks, or you might have a week where it might hit in the low 90s and then you have all this beautiful weather. So it's not like
Every
a
day.
continual summer of 115 where you can
Like
count
we've
on
been
that.
having. Oh, guess what? It's 115 today again.
Yeah.
Or like today, it's really sunny and bright and kind of warm. Whereas 2 days ago, it was raining and freezing. So it's really weird. It's like it does kind of change a lot. It's not as constant.
Most
Yeah.
of the houses here fireplaces, which is really an added benefit. And you can get firewood pretty much anywhere. And it's,
But some people don't like the idea of burning trees. So I understand that too.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So do you guys have an arts and culture scene? Is there any theater, museums, or do you have to go into Punta
Oh
del
my
Este?
God, are you ready for this?
Oh my God, everywhere.
Really?
overwhelming.
Everywhere. I've just joined a group called Actividades del Punta, And every day I get probably, and this is Punta del Este and La Barra and Maldonado, which is Maldonado is the department where Punta del Este and La Barra reside, but Maldonado is also a town, a city. So there's every day, we could probably do one or two things every day. There's art exhibits, there's music, there's free dance class, there's tango lessons, there's pickleball, there's roller skating.
Oh, they'll teach you how to roller skate.
Biking.
Because they have skate parks.
Right.
I haven't done that since the 80s.
Right.
In the casinos, they have all kinds of shows and people performing. There's only 3 million people in Uruguay, right. But I'm telling you, it's like half of them are amazing singers and musicians.
I want to say,
I don't know how that happens.
I want to say they have one of the oldest theaters in the world. It's called Teatro Solis, and that's in Montevideo. But and a lot of this is free. Here in Maldonado, they have the Casa de Cultura, and that provides free classes in music, free classes in ceramics, dancing, writing, just guitar playing, candombe, which is drumming. They have free classes in samba. And that's when Carnival happens in January. The candombe is primarily, it's a large parade, and it's different candombe groups with their samba dancers in front of them, and it's spectacular. It's just the music is just, there's a chorus pretty much on every corner. There's so much to do. Painting class and drawing class and bird watching.
And then
a lot of street performers.
No, not all. There are people that go to the market on Sundays and they play guitar and they sing and they do that. There are people in sort of the United States, people are holding the signs at the street corners and asking for money.
Mm-hmm.
There are jugglers on this, and so they do a little performance for you for tips while you're waiting for your, you know what I mean? They do juggling, and they do, like, I think I've seen
sell things to
a unicycle, or they sell things for next to nothing, like things you would need, like garbage bags or whatever.
It's illegal to beg for money here.
Right.
They have criminalized that, so people can't just beg on the streets like we see in Arizona.
Right.
But then they don't die on the streets either, like we see in Arizona.
Yeah, there's just even in Montevideo, the Rambla, which is a major street.
I mean, it's like Lakeshore Drive in Chicago.
They shut down
They
shut down one side of it, the side closest to the beaches. On Sundays, they shut down, I want to say, like 6 miles. I don't know if I've got that number right, but they shut down a crap load of that so people can take their bikes out and they can roller skate and they can walk, and the kids
take their
are
dogs
out there and take
I
their
love
dogs.
That. It's so fun. It's really
I love that.
Yeah. So even here, there's surfing. You surfing all year round. They've got surfing contests all year round. If you like to run marathons, they had a marathon today. Free music everywhere down in the little shopping, one of the little shopping areas where we are. Like every weekend they have free music.
And they'll teach it to you for free through the Casa de Cultura. So if you want to learn how to play drums or the big candombe drum and you want to be in the carnival parade, you could become a member. You could become a murga and sing as part of carnival. They're more political. But if you wanted to do that, they will teach you how to do this.
That's really...
Well, it sounds like you're not bored.
No.
You would have to try to be bored here. I mean,
I try to be bored, and it's like, damn, these people want me to go do this, and now they want me to do that. What in the world?
You would...
But that's great.
And the theater here is wonderful, and they have outdoor concerts, and the kids and the families go to the parks where the kids are playing around in the parks. And I mean, you hear the sound of kids every day here. And
late, like they'll be at 9:30, 10 o'clock in a restaurant and with their kids, or in the park with their kids, or at Barra,
because
which
they're
is like
so family. They're so family oriented.
Yeah.
It's unlike the U.S.
Right. You can't forget soccer. There is something. Soccer is, oh my God. it's just the younger group of soccer players won a tournament against Italy.
They won the world FIFA, junior
FIFA or something. And the entire town, the Uruguay, I mean, everywhere. It wasn't just, it was the whole country was supporting this group of young men and women. And just, I mean, it was just spectacular. But their soccer, polo is quite an event here. I'm just trying to think. Going to antique stores. I mean, really.
And Casa Pueblo, like you could see the artwork from Vilaro, and you can see his videos and everything, and go into the hotel that he made. Casa Pueblo is incredible. That was a really good. We have museums all over, like the Raleigh Museum. They have the Lusich Arboretum here. There's all kinds of stuff to do. It's just a matter of planning it and figuring out when to go. Really.
So far, it sounds like you hit the jackpot.
I really feel like I did.
I did too.
But we're in our first year, so
it's our honeymoon
we're still learning. Yeah.
You're still in the honeymoon phase.
Yes, absolutely.
But yeah, so we'll definitely revisit. I want to keep in touch with you. So let's talk about, are you ladies foodies? Do you like to go out to dinner?
Yes.
What type of restaurants do you have? Do you have just local, and what type of food is there? I know Uruguay has beef. Everything is beef. Chains.
There's some local ones that are just kind of on their own, mom and pop shop ones. There are some beautiful restaurants. Like one that I love to go to is called La Palenque, and it features the parrilla, which is their asado. It's their barbecue. And they are really known for their barbecue, and you can see them cooking the meats, and you can ask for your meat and whatever you want. I usually just get salmon, and they'll cook my salmon on the parrilla just like they do any of the meats. So it's pretty cool. But then they have you could go to McDonald's here and Burger King. You could actually get veggie burgers at Burger King here, but you could also go to the 5 stars. And we also have 5-star hotels here that have amazing restaurants as well. So it really just depends on what you're looking for. But like an average dinner for us too might be $60 or so, just for a normal kind of dinner with one cocktail maybe, because Cynthia doesn't drink. So but it's not cheap, but it's not super expensive either.
But it sounds like you have a variety of different restaurants in the area to choose from that are really good places. And you talk about barbecue. Now it kind of reminds me of like Brazilian barbecue in the US.
It's very similar.
The unlimited meat that comes by, and they carve the beef and different cuts of beef, and you have to turn your paddle to the stop where it's red for them to stop serving you. That's what I think of.
We went to a restaurant called Espinas.
Las
Espinas, which is up on, there's not really any big mountain here. I think the highest peak is a little over 1,600 feet, but this is quite a ways up. And it is there's a winery, but they have a restaurant up there, and I don't eat meat. But I watched this gentleman get his plate, and he had this steak that I swear, it was,
oh my God.
It was
the whole
probably,
oh my God,
3 inches. It was just enormous. It was enough food for
a family,
a whole family.
4 people.
It was like a roast. It was like an entire roast on his plate. And I mean, you could just tell that he was enjoying every bite. It just looked beautifully cooked, and the food that we had was just spectacular. And that's one of the more 5-star places where they help you pair your wine, and you sit outside, and it's just stunning there. It's absolutely stunning.
I'm going to tell you, Mark, if you come here and visit us, we're taking you. My treat. Okay.
Cynthia, are you vegan?
No, I'm a pescatarian.
So you eat fish?
Fish. Yeah. I'll eat
fish.
Like you. It's not and there is no limit to the amount of fish that you can get here.
So being a pescatarian in a beef area or a beefy kind of environment, it doesn't matter?
No, and there's a lot of organic places. There's a great store which is like a vegan store. It's called
Brote.
Brote. We've got a place down here called the Allegro, and that is a whole food, natural food, vegan store. You can get Beyond Burgers, and they have so you can get plenty of vegan options here. There's not a problem if you were vegan.
And
Personally, I'm not vegan,
Right.
but you
I
know
think
what?
it's
I
because-
maybe have beef once a year.
Oh,
Yeah.
there you go.
Okay.
I think because we're on the coast,
Yeah.
we have access to all of the seafood and the fish and everything. Like I had mejillones, which are mussels. Oh my God. They are spectacular. Now I had that in Italy. These mussels were so much bigger and fresher and rounder. I couldn't believe it. So the fish is really good here. It's amazing. The sushi is it's not developed enough here.
Right.
It's mostly when we have sushi here, it's going to be salmon or shrimp or tuna. That's pretty much it.
Or octopus.
Or pulpo, yeah.
Pulpo.
But most of they haven't really figured out sushi yet. They're trying though.
Well, and that's in our little area. But in Punta, we have not exhausted nearly the restaurants.
Yeah, there are many
yeah.
places to go.
Yeah, you'll never run out, probably.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about crime. Is there any crime? Are guns legal? Compare it a little bit to the U.S.
Well, they're very mindful and very reasonable people here, I think. They say if you want a gun, you can, but it can't be an assault rifle. You cannot have an assault rifle. You cannot have a magazine with that will fit more than 30 bullets. If you want a gun, you can get a gun, but you have to show that you've been trained to use the gun. They do a background check. They do a psych exam on you. They make sure that if you want to have a gun, there's a reason for it and that you can handle it, which makes sense to me.
What a novel idea.
You should see the rules. If you Google the gun laws in Uruguay or the requirements, it just makes sense. I think the U.S. should just adopt it completely. It just was so logical, so reasonable, and we could still go shooting. You could still go hunting. We have a lot of cowboys. Caballeros here are called gauchos. And you know what? Sometimes they do need guns. They do need their rifles for protection from animals or whatever. So it's just kind of interesting. But the crime here seems to be more personal in nature. Like you might have some burglaries. You might have people steal your car. You might have people steal things out of your car. So you just lock your car and you lock your doors. Our house was like a summer home. So they put bars on our windows and some of our doors. Is it necessary? I don't know. Maybe if you had to be away for so long, it might make sense. And then we have an alarm system. There's a company, Abe, out here that's they pretty much cornered the market in alarm systems. And so I have heard from some of the expats that their house was burglarized. But for the most part, we don't see violent crimes. It's usually going to be some kind of theft, something that's easy to get. Like if you left something out front, your bicycle out front, someone could steal it. Sure.
Since I've been here, I haven't even seen people yelling at each other unless they're trying to get their attention to come, right? I've never seen, nobody's yelled at a clerk. Nobody has yelled at when you go to the doctor, when you go, they hand you a mask. It's not, nobody's yelled about not wearing a mask. They just put the mask on.
They just put the mask on.
Right. Nobody.
Very reasonable people.
They don't, there's no road rage. They don't flip you off if you accidentally cut them off. Every once in a while you'll hear a horn tooting because somebody maybe is not paying attention to the light in front of them or whatever it is. There's none of that weird,
like angry grievance, filled anxiety.
I understand that I see people drink. I've never seen
anyone drunk.
Never seen anybody drunk. I've never seen anybody.
Our Spanish teacher says, "Oh yeah, no, the people drink a lot here. You just can't tell." And I said, "Well, that's a good sign."
Well, yeah,
one of the things that the government has really taken it seems like they've really taken on as a project is domestic violence. I mean, it's they they have political songs about it. They're constantly, I mean, they talk to you about it every time you go in to see the doctor. They have information about it and places that you can contact. And I mean, it's everywhere to try and curb that.
And I'm sure that was a decision. Also, crime and safety was a decision on your move. Like, I'm
Right.
sure you wouldn't move to a place that had violent crime. So you researched that pretty much and said, okay, this seems like a really good place to be because of the gun laws and the laws that are in place.
Our number one reason for moving here was where we could be safe, and we could be a lesbian couple married, and we could be women, and we would not be accosted, we would not be yelled at, we would not be terrorized, because I felt terrorized constantly in Scottsdale. I did not fit there at all, and I was not like those people. And they knew it. We stuck out like a sore thumb in our corner house in Scottsdale, and it just seems like it's like they don't
I didn't
care.
want to say it.
Right. And then if I introduce somebody, oh, Cynthia's mi esposa, they're like, oh, mucho gusto, how great. It's just, we can just be here
Who
safely and accepted. And even if people don't like Americans, we just try to be more Italian then.
And we walk down to, things start really late here, like dinner, the restaurants have a siesta. A lot of them have like a siesta time where dinner starts at like 8. So we walk to the restaurants together. I walk down and do grocery shopping alone. You can go anywhere alone.
Everybody knows
night,
everybody too. So when you have that little town kind of thing, it's like, well, you're not going to like everybody told me that the cleaning lady next door, her husband has been caught stealing from people. Like he goes in their garages and he gets caught like running out of their garages with stuff in his hands. So they're like, you be careful of that guy. And they like everybody's like in the loop. They keep you in the loop. It's so cute. And I don't feel stressed out or scared at all.
Right. You don't have your anxiety.
No.
You don't have anxiety there.
It's just like,
so that's great. So like Cynthia said, you could start a dinner at 8 or 9 o'clock and start walking home maybe at 11.
Yeah.
And even walking in the street 11 or 12, you don't feel at all threatened, correct?
No.
Yeah.
Not so far.
So
I mean, maybe,
so
anything can happen anywhere at any time.
Right.
I mean, we're always just walking home. We're not doing anything goofy. We try not to bring a lot of attention to ourselves, but we just are walking home. But I've never had a negative experience with a passerby or with other guys walking or whatever. I've never felt intimidated. The only time I ever felt intimidated was when we were in Ciudad Vieja in Montevideo, and there were some guys who were probably schizophrenic, and they were walking around yelling. That scared me a little. That made me uncomfortable, but I would find that in any big city.
Right. Any place that would make me uncomfortable.
You just don't
go to that area,
right? You go and you look at the little. You go and you look at you tour the place and then you leave. You don't.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to be smart.
You have to be
no matter where you are, you just have to be aware.
Right.
And smart.
Situational awareness is really important. It'll keep you alive.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely. I agree. So, okay. How about healthcare? Let's talk a little bit about healthcare. How does it compare to the U.S.? Do you feel comfortable about the healthcare system? What types of healthcare systems do they have? They're public and private. Do you belong to any of them? If something should happen, would you get something done there, or would you have to come back to the States?
That's a great question. Before we left Arizona, that was one of the things that we really wanted to check out. And one of the things that was really expensive, we were spending almost $2,000 a month to insure us. We're 58-year-old women. So we really get those premiums socked to us, even if we're healthy, and we are healthy. Yeah. I don't even take any meds at all. I mean, it's like ridiculous that they would treat us all the same, but they do. So I was very excited to find out about what systems were here in Uruguay. One is if you're really, really poor or you just do not want to pay any premiums at all, you don't have to, because they do have nationalized universal coverage that you can sign up for once you have residency. You could do that. But we opted for private insurance, which is like an HMO. And so we did have to show insurability. So we did have a mammogram, we did have pap smears, we did have full exams, full blood work, everything like that. And it was done very professionally and very inexpensively and very thoroughly, I must say. But we also picked Asistencial for our place because guess what? Here in La Barra, they just happen to have this little office. So if you want to see a doctor like I did last month, I had a cold that was kind of stubborn. It wouldn't go away. I thought, maybe I have COVID or something. I got in to see the doctor in like 2 days, and it was only delayed because it was a holiday. So I got to see the doctor. He spent a lot of time with me, gave me my prescription, and I was able to pick it up the next day. And I think the whole thing cost me maybe like $20. And then we did pay a premium for the coverage, and it was $951 for each of us for 14 months. They gave us a discount for paying it for an annual. They do a lot of that annual. You pay annually, you get a discount on the alarm, you get a discount on your health insurance, your car insurance, and even the taxes. Property taxes are pretty low here, but you can get a discount if you pay before January 31, blah, blah, blah. So that we just kind of, once you learn those things, you just do those and mark them down so you don't forget. But for the most part, I think that the hospitals seem very good. Now, if somebody's really, really keen on going to Mayo, okay, well, then go back to Arizona and go to Mayo. But for me, I feel very comfortable and confident that they'd be able to handle anything that I would come up with here.
That's
they
good.
do,
That's
from
good.
a medical point of view, they do. It's very similar to Mexico, where the pharmacies are where you get your over-the-counter drugs. You can't just go into like a grocery store and get aspirin, right? You have to go to the pharmacy.
You have to go to a pharmacy.
And then you have to go to the pharmacist, and you have to tell them what you're looking for, and then they give it to you. So it's
in
not
Europe
that
too.
Free for all. But
there are a lot of things you can buy without prescriptions. But there are some things that if you need a prescription, like I did, they just went ahead and had it available at that medical center here in La Barra, where I could just come the next day and pick it up. Or I could have gone to a pharmacy somewhere else and I could have picked it up. So they give you choices.
And if you're brand conscious or you have to have you have to have NyQuil or you have to have Tylenol PM, don't come here. Right?
Yeah, you might not find
you
find that.
have to be able to.
So I can.
Right, you have to be able to work in the system and accept that what they are doing has kept these people very healthy. I don't even think they had 2,000 people die of COVID. Right. They know what they're doing. The medical system is phenomenal. But you're not going to, like I said, if you're going to be brand conscious about something, this is not moving to another country at all is not the place for you.
Right, exactly, because you got to realize you're in a different country.
Right.
You're not going to last if you're going to say, okay, I miss this, I miss that, whether it be food, drugs, you name it. You're an immigrant. It's time to think like it's not the US and this is why I'm here. And so you have to think differently. And if you don't do that and you don't think differently, then I have a feeling that you might be on your way back in a couple of years because you're going to be so unhappy.
Getting appointments for the doctor is very easy. You go online. You can choose a specific doctor if you want to, or you can see whatever doctors are on call for that particular situation. So we've never waited more than 2 days. And one of those days was a holiday to see somebody here. It's not, you don't wait months to go see anybody. They have an ambulance system. They have mobile doctors that will come to your home they
But we also opted for
right?
that private.
Private.
You didn't.
Do you know if the public charges? Like if
I don't think
for
so.
expats, like if you're not a resident, I mean, if you're a resident now of Uruguay and you haven't been paying into their social security system all your life, do they charge anything?
No,
for the
it's
public?
not. It doesn't work like that. It's basically if you are a resident and you need coverage and you don't want to pay a premium, then use theirs. Use their nationalized or universal coverage, and it won't cost you. But with the private, you might pay a little. Like just to give you an example, for my blood test, I had to pay 160 pesos, which was about $4. So I'm like, okay, sure, I can do that. So to me, it was better to pay a little bit for the private coverage. But there are some people who will not pay those premiums, especially young people who don't want to pay the premiums.
So I looked on International Living, and it says that the ASSE in Uruguay, which is the public healthcare system, cost expats who are legal residents about $70 per month. And unlike a mutualista, which is what Elaine and I have, there's no co-payment. No co-payment is required.
Okay, so it's free only to the Uruguayos, not to the expats.
Right.
Okay.
So the expats have to pay $70.
Yep. Which is, you may as well go to Asistencial then.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because for a little bit more, it's really nice.
Right. Yeah, and it's probably less of a wait. I would think in the public
I'm
system,
feeling like it is.
You'd probably have to wait longer.
Yeah, the clinics are really good. And then especially if you have nothing big, like, you have some stitches you need or you have a cold, then just go to a clinic, for goodness sakes.
Right.
That's no problem.
I think it may also depend. It might be better in different parts. Like if maybe, and I don't know, I haven't done any research on this. I don't know if a mutualista would be better in maybe one of the more rural departments versus Montevideo or vice versa. So if somebody is interested in doing that, they need to know that they need to first get their legal residency, and then they can make that decision. But they might, depending upon where they want to live, they might want to check in that area to see which is a better option for them.
And in the meantime, before getting temporary residency, we still needed coverage. We wanted coverage. So we had travel insurance, which is very inexpensive. Yeah. But that covered us until we were able to get onto Asistencia.
Yes.
Yeah. So that'll segue us into how do you obtain a visa? How do you obtain residency? Is it through the consulate in the United States? Is it through Uruguay or
our inmobiliaria gave us a recommendation for an attorney here, and we paid him about $5,000 for each of us, and he did all of the work. We had to go to Interpol, we had to get our medical exams, we had to do a background check with the FBI. There were all kinds of things, and now we have our temporary residency, so we have a cedula. There's no visa per se here.
Not for us, not for people from the United States. I don't know how it works from places from other countries.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, that's interesting.
But then it takes about 6 months to a year or so to go from temporary to permanent. And then when you're permanent, you could just pretty much, you're almost like a citizen. If you want to be a citizen and you want to vote, then you have to take a Spanish exam. Right. So you have to learn. Isn't that reasonable? Isn't that something
it sure
cool
is. You
that
should.
we should do? In the US?
You should
Wouldn't that be
able
kind of smart?
So we have our cedula and it's good for 2 years, and we're right in the process of getting our permanent residency card. So we can hold our permanent residency here, still keep our citizenship in the United States, and still keep the United States passport. If we decided to become citizens, then we would get a U.S. passport. And that was another thing that we looked at, is the strength of a passport.
We wouldn't get a U.S. one. We'd get an Uruguayan
passport.
Yeah. Uruguayan.
But I don't know if people are aware of the way that passports are rated in regards to strength. And it's kind of convoluted for me too, but I know that Uruguay is one of the top 2 countries in South America with the strongest passports. So
But it's not as strong as a U.S. passport.
It's not as strong as a U.S. passport, but it does. There are many benefits to having a U.S. passport and keeping that. But the Uruguayan passport is very, very strong. The country is very, very strong. So, yeah, we feel pretty good about that.
That's great. All right. So, do you know if they have any provisions for like golden visas? Can you buy property and then get permanent residency that way?
So I looked that up because I really because visas were not an issue for us. I was trying to figure out what a golden visa was actually. And you're able to buy a house here and buy property here and own it outright, whether you're a citizen or you're not a citizen, whether you're a legal resident or you're not a legal resident. There are some benefits you get once you become a legal resident. For instance, there's a 5-year moratorium on taxes from income that comes from outside of Uruguay. But you are expected to you pay your taxes, your home taxes, you pay school taxes, you still pay that whether or not you have a cedula or you don't have a cedula. There is no such thing here as a golden visa. And if you want to continue to get the tax benefits from Uruguay, you are required to be here 183 days. So you have to be in Uruguay 183 days. So I don't think that you can, once you become a permanent resident, you can come and go as you please.
Okay.
Or a legal resident, you can come and go as you please.
Permanent is right.
And permanent. So once you become a legal resident, you can come and go as you please. If you have bought property here and you're not a resident, you are allowed to stay for 90 days. Then you make a request to stay an additional 90 days. And at the end of the 180 days, you have to leave the country, and then you can come back and you get a form that allows you to come back. And that's what we did.
No, we did not. Well, we didn't do that. What we did is we filed for temporary residency.
Right.
So we didn't have to go away after 180 days.
Yes.
We could stay in the country, no problem. But we did leave the country. We went to the US, we went to Italy, and to come back to the country, we had this little paper. That said we were allowed to come back, and we could use that paper for a year.
And you can get that at the airport, or you can get it at the tourist center or whatever. And that's the paper that you have to have.
It's like a permission slip.
Like permission slip to come back in.
To come back.
And sometimes they ask you for it, and sometimes they don't. It just depends on the airline, and it depends on who's doing the checking. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But they're funny about their taxes. They're like, well, if you make income in another country and you live in Uruguay, no problem. We're not going to tax you. But if you live in Uruguay and you make dividends, we're going to tax you on the dividends after 5 years of you being here.
Right.
So it's like, oh, shucks. So it's good to know, because the planner in me says, well, I make a lot of money in dividends right now. So that's cool.
Worldwide assets, dividends in worldwide assets, or just in Uruguay?
Just any dividends that we receive. It doesn't matter if it's in or outside. And so what they were saying is people who reside here permanently after 5 years, you would have to pay taxes 12% on those dividends. And I was like, well, no, I will not. What I'll do is I'll figure out some other investment that I can use so I don't have to pay taxes on the dividends. Because that would be like $6,000 a year for us just in taxes on dividends. So I don't want to do that. But you plan accordingly.
Yeah.
And to become a resident here, you're required to show that you have passive income of $2,500 per couple. So, for Elaine and I, we had to show.
That's pretty reasonable.
And then you have to get that notarized, and then you have to get it apostilled, and then you have to get it translated. So the whole process.
There's quite a bit.
It's like if you look at everything, including bringing the dogs over, it cost us about $10,000 as a family to get through all of the the processes that need to be done,
All the
because
legal
everything
work.
has to be
So-
apostilled, everything has to be translated. And that's why we chose to use a lawyer as opposed to try and do it ourselves. We know people who are doing it themselves, but
They've made mistakes.
we wanted
They've
to
had to
make
pay
sure it was
penalties. They've
right.
had to pay fines. So my idea was, I don't mind paying $5,000 to a professional. He speaks English really well.
Right.
His daughter works with him, and she speaks English really well.
Yeah.
And they're just like, they'll come to the house and bring notarized things or things to notarize. I mean, it seems to make sense. So if people need
Right.
resources, there are those available.
We don't have to worry about making sure that the translation is accurate, because it's coming
Right.
from a lawyer, so we don't have to worry about that. So that was worth it to us.
Okay. So quickly, I wanted to know about how you got your dogs over and what that took
So
and how that was done.
wow. So the first thing you have to do is check with the airline to see what the airline's process is. And you have to check with each airport that you are, well, we did. We
Stopping
checked
at.
with each airport that you stop in to make sure that animals are okay. So like, for instance, in Arizona, there are some airlines that will not allow dogs to be on flights, pets to be on the flights, because of the heat index. Right. So you have to make sure that that's an issue. And then for our dogs, you have a doctor fill out a set of forms for the USDA. They get a test for a certain, I think it's a worm or a parasite. I think they had to have an extra rabies shot. They had to have a deworming. And then within literally like 72 hours of your trip, you have to get the USDA to sign off that the dogs have done everything that they can be, and that they approve that the vet has said that the dogs are within or are healthy. And then they overnight forms back. So it costs probably $1,200, about $400 per pet. And then when we went to the airline that we flew required us to have one dog per person. So we brought a friend of ours. We paid for a ticket so a friend of ours could come with us and bring one of the dogs. And then we all had to sit in seats by the window. And
So they're all small?
They're all small. They were able to sit in the
You're
cabin.
lucky.
Right.
You're
And then
lucky.
some of the airlines are so funny. It's like at certain times of year,
They won't
let you take a dog because of, especially if it's a big dog and it's not going to be in the cabin,
Right.
because it's so hot.
The heat or the
So you were
cold or
able to
whatever.
put them under the seat? Or
we
around
were
there?
able to put them under the seat.
And we had to have special crates that we bought
Yeah,
good.
that would fit.
special
and that
crates,
were,
special sizes.
Oh, you're
And then-
lucky because
So
we have a
got
lab.
him here. We got him here, and I expected this big. We did all this research and all this work, and going to the vet and doing this and doing that, and we got here, and we had our dogs, and the guy was like, "Do you have that USDA paper?" And we were like, "Yeah," and he was like, "Okay, thanks," and that was it. I expected, I don't know. I expected the seas to part or something.
Well,
it was such a big deal on our end to get them here. And then we got them here and they were like, great, thanks a lot. It was like, okay, thanks.
No, it's mostly coordinating it with the airlines because they won't let you have more than 3 dogs on the plane at one time.
You can't
and then
sit in first
you
class.
can't sit together because we thought we could just all 3 sit together. No, we could only have 1 dog in a row. So it just depends on the airlines. They're really the ones you should check with.
And then Panama, we flew into Panama, and that was interesting because at one point, Panama, the airport had stopped allowing pets in the airport completely. So we were like, we had to check to make sure that they had relieved that. They had removed that.
We just had to keep them in the crates, but they couldn't be out walking around and things.
Right. So it was just really, but then we got them here, and I mean, it was nothing.
And
love it. They love it. They run on the
great.
beach. Every beach here is a dog beach. So you can have your dog off leash on any beach, all beaches. It's up to you. Just clean up after him. And God forbid, if they like to bite other dogs and people, you put them on a leash, keep them on a leash.
Awesome. So,
And there's no what is it called? Quarantine.
Oh,
Like
yeah, there is no quarantine.
I understand in some countries there's a quarantine period, and
Yeah.
for us, they just wanted to see that the USDA and that the
DA.
vet had said that they were healthy enough to be here, and that was the end of it. So
Awesome.
that was pretty
So,
easy.
ladies, and we're running out of time,
Oh,
but
sure.
a couple more questions. Do you miss anything that you had in the U.S. that you don't have in Uruguay?
I miss the people in the U.S.
You
that
do?
were my people.
Her friends.
Like
yeah.
my friends and
Oh,
my
okay.
family and
Okay.
the people that I spent time with. I miss performing with Voices of the Desert. I miss the people that I spent so much time with them, and I miss going to see Elaine perform with the bands. From a stuff point of view, I think the only thing that I really miss are Reese's peanut butter cups.
Oh,
They
I'll
don't
have to
have them
send you
here.
some.
So
I think a
Send you
really
some.
good shop would be like an American shop. We've seen them in Italy. We saw a few of them. And I was thinking, gosh, we should have an
You
American
should
shop.
open up,
And
or
then
you
do
should
the
open up one.
Reese's and all
Rice
the yummy
Krispies,
things.
all the
Yeah, Rice
naughty
Krispies. You
stuff.
can't find Rice Krispies here. We bought some in Italy though.
You could call it the naughty American. It'd be all the
Yeah,
naughty
the
stuff
naughty
that you
American.
can
Yeah,
like
there
the
you go. I
crackers
love it.
and
I
the
love
peanut
it.
butters.
right?
I love it. Okay. So, what would you say were some of the cons? Do you have any cons about living there?
It's very far. It's far from Europe. It's far from the US. And we're talking about a full day of traveling, 17 to 24 hours. It's grueling. Those flights are very difficult on the body. I think that was the thing that scared me the most was how am I going to bring our dogs and our friend and our bodies and our stuff. To me, it was just the length of travel. It's just really grueling. But if you
Yeah.
can get over that hump, it's not so bad. And just remind yourself in a day, I could be right there in Phoenix with you,
Right.
Mark. And I just
Yep.
need a day
Just a day.
Yeah.
and some money. You
That's
know,
it.
and that's it. So
That's how you have to think about it.
that's the way I think about it.
Yeah.
For me, it's the
So,
language. I wish that I had had the forethought that I might move to a country where Spanish was going to be a primary language, and I had studied more. I think that that's really important. If you're going to move south of the border and you're going to move into Central America or South America, you really need to start that process now, even if it's just basic conversational Spanish from an online program and listening.
right.
So, and that's not a con, it's a deficit that I have.
But it can be resolved,
it can be
and it
resolved.
could be considered
Yes.
temporary.
Sure, it's
deficit.
temporary.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So, in wrapping up, what would you tell our audience if they were thinking to move to Uruguay?
I would say come and do reconnaissance, check it out, watch the videos, get really familiar with the different regions of the country. And then if you need to reach out, we're always available to
Sure.
help anybody if they want to know more about living specifically in Uruguay or if they need tour guides. I love to do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how you
So-
do that,
And-
but if you want to include like an email or something for us, if they have questions, I don't know how that works for you.
Yeah, we can put that in the show notes.
Sure.
So when the podcast is published, we could definitely put that in the show notes, or they can contact me and I can contact you and we can get something going. I want to definitely thank you and keep in touch with you. I want to give you big hugs because you're so great. I love this. I love this. High five and hugs and everything else. So thank you so much for being a part of this. I really appreciate it. I love talking to you. You've been very educational. I didn't know a thing about Uruguay. I didn't know a thing. And you've kind of like opened up and broadened my horizons. And this is what this is all about.
Yeah.
I love making community. And it's just it's all good. And I wish you the best.
Can I just say one last thing? I just want to say Uruguay is one of the countries in the world that has what they call a homo monument. They have a Plaza de la Diversidad Sexual here, and in it is a rose granite monument, and the monument says to honor diversity is to honor life.
Wow.
So I feel like
Powerful.
the commitment is solid. It's kind of on solid ground here. So this is a good.
It sure sounds
It's a good exit. Uruguay is a good exit strategy.
Yeah, if you need to protect yourself, it could be an option, at least temporarily.
Temporarily.
That's why a lot of people are looking for exit strategies if needed.
Mark, you and your family need to come and visit us.
Yes, please.
Oh, we will. That's definitely going to be on the bucket list.
Yay!
Yay. And I will definitely keep in touch. And and I want to thank also Dave Hughes for making the introduction. So that was great
absolutely.
too.
Thanks for having us. It's been our pleasure to talk to you.
It's been wonderful.
It's been fun. Very fun.
Thank you so much.
Have a great rest of your day.
You too, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you for listening to the Where Do Gays Retire podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to our podcast and consider making a donation by clicking the coffee cup on any page at www.wheredogaysretire.com. Each cup of coffee that you buy costs $5 and goes towards helping us continue the podcast. Thank you for your continued support.